Hello students, welcome to Super 7 Revision Series Part 14. Here in this video, we will see the golden rules for pedigree analysis. First, let me tell you what is exactly pedigree analysis. See, if we study any trait which is inherited in the family, or you can say in closely related individuals, and try to find out the pattern of the trait and the characteristics of the trait, it is called as pedigree analysis. Any trait has two major patterns, one dominant, two recessive, and further they are of two types, dominant autosomal and recessive autosomal. Here the gene of the trait is located on autosomes. Second, dominant X-linked and recessive X-linked. Here the gene of the trait is located on X chromosome. Now let us see the golden rules, or you can say important clues to identify these four patterns in a given pedigree. This is first pattern, X-linked dominant disorder. Let us see the golden rule or clue to identify it. See the pedigree chart given and note. Here affected father, see number 1, and his daughters. Check number 3, number 5, number 6. All of his daughters are affected. So the golden rule is affected father passed the disease to all his daughters, and also father cannot transfer the disease to son. Check number 8. The son is not affected even if father is affected. To verify further, check this also. Out of total 5 affected children in the pedigree, number 3, 5, 6, 11 and 13, 4 daughters are affected. So it is X-linked dominant disorder, and example of this disorder is vitamin D resistant rickets. Come to second pattern, X-linked recessive disorder. See the pedigree and check. Males are affected here. See point 4, 6 and 16. They are males and they are affected. Next, see at point 2. Here mother is affected and she is having both sons, number 4 and number 6. Both sons are affected. So, golden rule is affected mothers always have all her sons affected. Means the disease is tend to transfer from mother to son, and it can also transfer from father to daughter. By this you can identify X-linked recessive disorders, and example of these disorders are hemophilia and color blindness. Now let us summarize the two golden rules to identify X-linked disorder. See number 1, X-linked dominant. Here is rule number 1. Affected father, number 4, is having all his daughters, number 6, 7, 8 and 10 are affected. Means affected father has 100% affected daughters. Note this rule number 1 for X-linked dominant disorders identification in pedigree. Now see number 2. Pedigree chart for X-linked recessive. Here, sons are more affected, and an affected mother, number 3, is having all her sons, number 5, 7, 8, 9, all sons are affected. So, rule number 2, affected mother has 100% sons affected, and also males are more affected here. So, note this rule number 2 for X-linked recessive disorder identification. Come to pattern number 3, autosomal dominant disorder. See the pedigree chart and check for some important clues. First, there is no skip in generation. You can see this disease in all generation, first, second and third. Next, see affected parents, number 3 and number 4. They are having unaffected child, number 7. This child is not affected even if both parents are affected. Next, see unaffected parents, number 7 and number 8. They are having all their children, number 11, number 12, number 13, all children are not affected. This is how you can identify autosomal dominant disorder. An example of this disorder is Huntington disease. Come to pattern number 4, autosomal recessive disorder. See the pedigree. You can see skip in generation. Parent 1 and 2 are unaffected, so disease is skipped here. Now come to other important clues to identify the disorder. Unaffected parents 1 and 2 are having affected child number 4. Similarly, unaffected parents 5 and 6 are having affected child number 10. Next, see the affected parents number 8 and 9. They are having all their children affected. Number 11, number 12, number 13, all children are affected here. So, that is how you can identify autosomal recessive disorder. An example of these disorders are sickle cell anemia, phenylketonuria, and cystic fibrosis. Now, let us summarize Rule 3 and Rule 4 for identification of autosomal disorder. Rule number 3 for autosomal dominant disorder, see first pedigree. Here, affected parents 1 and 2 are having unaffected child number 4. This child is not affected here. And also, if parents are unaffected, all children will be unaffected. So note कीजिए rule number 3 को for autosomal dominant trait identification in pedigree. Now come to rule number 4 for autosomal recessive. See the second pedigree. Here unaffected parents C1 and 2 are having affected child number 4, and also if parents are affected, then all children will be affected. Note this rule 4 for identification of autosomal recessive disorder in pedigree. Now let us solve some problems. This is example number 1. See the pedigree. Which rule you can apply here? It is very prominent here. See, 2 affected parents 1 and 2 are having unaffected child number 7, and also one important thing to further verify this, see unaffected parents 7 and 8, they are having all their children unaffected. This is the clue for autosomal dominant disorder. It is rule number 3, so answer is autosomal dominant. Come to example number 2. Check the pedigree and try to find the clue. First, see out of 4 affected children, 3, 4, 8 and 10, 3 are daughters and 1 is son. It is one of the important clue. Now also see, affected father number 7 is having 100% of his daughters affected. See number 8 and number 10, both are daughters and both are affected. So it is clear clue for X-linked dominant disorder. Rule number 1 है ये. So answer is X-linked dominant. Now come to example number 3. It is slightly more complicated, but see, number of affected children are 5. Number 10, 13, 17, 18 and 19 are affected children, and out of these 2 are daughters and 3 are sons. So almost equal distribution है ये. Okay, so it is not sex linked. Now check and try to find the exact clue. See, unaffected parents 8 and 9 are having affected child number 17, and also affected parents 10 and 11 are having both affected children. This is a clue for autosomal recessive disorder. Rule number 4 है ये. So answer is autosomal recessive. Come to next example number 4. See the pedigree. It is very clear and very prominent here that there are more affected males. Out of 6 affected children, 5, 7, 9, 13, 14, 15, 5 are sons. So it is sex linked. And now check for important clue. affected mother number 1 has all her sons number 5 and number 7 affected. So this is rule number 2 for X-linked recessive disorder. So the answer is X-linked recessive. So by applying these rules, we can identify 4 patterns in a given pedigree. Clear? Remember these for quick answers. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for staying with me. Subscribe the channel to get the information about my new video. Thank you so much.